Good evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News. Rotorua District Councillor Rob Ken says he thinks a 3% rates increase is too high, so he'll be voting against the annual plan. Easter trading, should we be allowed or not? We get opinion from the street. And the Rotorua International Airport increase free parking time in a makeover of parking services. Rotorua District Councillor Rob Ken says he'll be voting against the annual plan when it comes up at next week's council meeting. Mr Ken says he doesn't agree with a 3% rates increase, so he'll vote against adoption.
Basically, we've managed to keep things pretty tightly under control budget-wise, but there are still many issues in it that I'm not comfortable with, and I will actually be voting against the annual plan. Specifically, the areas I don't believe that we do actually need 3% rate rises, and I'm not at all comfortable with the major expenditure on TERAX. So there's a few other issues, so I can't say that I support where we've got to, although there have been moves in the right direction.
Now, does it really actually matter that there's only one person who is against these issues or against the plan?
Well, technically, unless there's 7 of you, nothing happens around this place, as I've discovered very quickly. So as far as it's basically me casting a protest vote, if you like, saying I don't agree, and I'm stating publicly that I do not agree.
More from District Councillor Rob Kent later in the show. One issue Rob Kent does agree with is Council's decision to continue to lobby central government to allow retail trading in the city over the Easter holiday period. Currently, trading is not allowed on Good Friday or Easter Sunday. Our reporter Alan Solomon went out earlier this week to get the opinion on the street.
They should be open at Easter, but there's hardly any shops here anyway. We're losing them all the time.
No idea.
No idea.
Oh, it should be open during the Easter.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because there's a lot of visitor we get, and also Rotorua is a tourist place, and we should bring all the tourists here. So it should be actually open on Easter weekend.
What do you think about Easter trading?
All the shops should be open.
Why?
Because people want to buy things. It's a shopping weekend. Why would you want to be closed? All right?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it sucks because I think people got to, earn a living these days. Yeah, and the days of, Monday to Friday are gone, I think. Yeah, got to move with the times.
I think they probably don't need to be open the whole time. Yeah, just out of a respect thing. Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. The shop should be closed. Easter is a time with the family and reminiscing what, Jesus is about.
Yeah, well, possibly it'll bring people in and we can all get our KFC or our, do our shopping on Easter. Why not? I mean, I don't see the crime in that.
Rotorua International Airport parking services having undergone a makeover, including the introduction of cheaper long-term parking options for travellers. Other changes include extending free visitor parking from 30 minutes to 60 minutes, updated rates, and new pay machines which now accept EFTPOS and credit cards. Airport Chief Executive Alastair Rhodes says the newly allocated short and long-term parking areas at the airport have been designed to offer greater choice for people travelling. And he says whether dropping off friends or family or just popping in for a coffee and a lotto ticket, locals are invited to take advantage of the new extended free parking options. In sport tonight, Aaron Cruden will lead the Chiefs onto the field tomorrow night for their must-win match against the Highlanders in Dunedin. Chiefs coach Dave Rennie says it's a massive game, but the team is well prepared. He says from here on in the Investec competition, every match is like a playoff. And Chiefs fans are encouraged to check out the Chiefs Facebook page to vote for their Player of the Year. Kick-off tomorrow night is at 7:35 p.m. Next week, the Chiefs will return home to play the Hurricanes at Waikato Stadium. To your weather update now. Tonight, showers with northwest winds and an overnight low of 9. Tomorrow, Friday, showers turning to rain, westerlies freshening, a high of 14 and a low of 7. And the outlook for Saturday becoming fine with westerlies easing, a high of 13 and a low of 2. And the marine forecast for Lake Rotorua for Friday, northwest rising to 15 knots in the morning and changing southwest to 20 knots in the evening, with waves rising to half a metre in the evening, and there'll be fair visibility in showers from the afternoon. Remember, for program listings and other info or to watch City News again, visit our website tvrotorua.co.nz or you can look us up on Facebook. Still to come in tonight's program, we catch up with Araki Tibble at Sport Bay of Plenty, and Alan Solomon talks with outspoken District Councillor Rob Kent.
Kia ora everybody, I'm at Sport Bay of Plenty now, joined by Araki Tibble, who is the school sport team leader. He's going to tell me a little bit about some of the events that are coming up for young people in our community. Kia ora, Araki.
Kia ora, kia ora.
So what are some of the things that Sport Bay of Plenty have got planned?
Well, we have our primary school event coordinator for the Central Bay of Plenty, and she is responsible for coordinating inter-school sports events for our local schools in Kura. Coming up at the moment, we've got cross-country, so we have our local cluster cross-countries, which lead on to a bay-wide cross-country, which takes place in Opotiki in early part of July.
Cool. So where are they running? Do you know the course?
The course here, well, we tried to run it last week. It was at the Redwoods, over the Waipa side of the Redwoods, but the weather was too bad, so it's postponed once, postponed a second time. We cancelled it, and now Rotorua School, they run a rural schools cross-country, and they've accepted the 340 odd entries from the central cluster, so they're going to have maybe 500 to 600 kids out there.
Wow, go Rotorua School,
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
So very supportive principal, Warwick Moyle, he's great.
Fantastic. What about some of the other things?
Yes, outside of the cross-country, once we kind of get that out of the way, we've got some winter sports events. The biggest event on the calendar for the year is the Central Bay of Plenty Winter Sports Field Day. We have about 1,400 kids involved in that, and it's netball, mini-ball, rugby, football and hockey. So held at 5 different locations around Rotorua, and that's probably the biggest event of the year. So all of the schools that are involved in that are building towards that pretty much as soon as they get cross-country out of the way.
Nice. So there'll be some very fit participants.
I'd say so, yep. We sort of pride ourselves on providing as many opportunities for our local tamariki as possible, and I think with the size of the calendar that we have now, we're providing plenty of opportunities for our kids.
Yeah, we've actually got it sitting here. I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to show it to you. It's pretty significant. It's pretty sizable. That's a lot of work. So how many staff have you got working on it?
Well, just in this particular area we have 1, but across the Sport Bay of Plenty school sport team we have 5 different staff members, 4 event coordinators, 1 in the secondary school area, 3 in the primary school area, and a fundamental movement skills coordinator as well. But for the Central Bay of Plenty primary school event coordinator, this role started about 4 years ago with 4 key events, and then since then it's grown to over 30 with the support of the local Principals Association.
Gee, that's pretty significant, eh? So what's the most unusual event that's on the calendar?
Possibly rock climbing. So we used the Wall and Basement Cinema in town for a junior schools rock climbing event. It took place last week, and that's probably the most unusual one, but it's probably one of the more fun events as well. How
did that go? Was there a winner?
Yes, I couldn't tell you who won off the top of my head.
Oh, the winners will be sitting at home going, what? Yeah. That's our moment for credit. But enjoyable.
Very, very enjoyable, yeah. That particular event historically had been a rock climbing event where people climb to the top of the wall, but based upon an Austrian schools format that we observed a few years ago, we've managed to make it a bit more user-friendly for kids that haven't been involved before, and it takes a bit of a musical chairs type approach where the music starts and the kids climb, the music stops and then the next ones take the wall. So it's loud music, a lot of fun, teams event.
Yeah, music and kids is always a good combination, eh? It gets them going.
It is, and there's probably not many events where we get to bring music and kids and sport together, so that's probably what makes that one specifically special.
Wonderful. Okay, so in terms of, I can see there's some Ripper Rugby happening as well, and tell me about how popular Ripper Rugby is. Is it, I as a mum, I would say I would like it, because I know it's not quite as aggressive as rugby, but tell me about that.
Yeah, well, Ripper Rugby is very popular, and mainly off the back of the fact that Bay of Plenty Rugby Union are quite well prepared to provide support to our local schools. Our rugby rugby is one of the traditional sports. So if you're looking at rugby, hockey, netball, football, those are our biggest sports in the region. And whilst people are talking a lot about new events like skateboarding and rock climbing and all these other sports, the traditional sports are still king, and that's certainly the case with Ripper Rugby and Sevens as well. What I would say is that those traditional sports are now starting to do adapted versions to try and appeal to a new market, and so in netball we have Fast 5 netball, and Rugby Ripper is probably the example of that. It's meeting the specific needs of that age category. And so on and so forth. So Ripper Rugby is certainly a big event. We've just had the Baywide last Friday, and the top 2 finishers from that team's event will be going to Wellington for a national tournament very shortly.
So just finally, where can people get involved out in the community if they want to jump onto a sports team, if they want to be involved with Sports Bay of Plenty? How can they get in touch, and what is their offering?
Well, I mean, we're geared up to support inter-school sports, so the best port of call is to go to their school first and foremost. Every primary school in this region has a teacher in charge of sport, and the teacher in charge of sport is our key contact. So they have all the information that we have here, and we really try and empower the schools to be the decision makers as to which opportunities they take on board. So that would be the first port of call for parents or for kids wanting to get involved.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for your time, Ariki.
You're welcome.
Better go and study up all those winners, eh? Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Well, I'm catching up with Councillor Rob Kent today, and we've got plenty of things to talk about because there's lots of issues that are happening around the city at the moment. We're going to be chatting things about fluoridation, estuary trading laws, and also about the annual plan that's out next week. So Rob, thanks for joining us again today. Now, we've got a whole lot of issues we want to discuss with you, but let's just start with the annual plan. Now, that's out, due out next week. Mm-hmm. What's your views on that so far?
Well, basically, we've managed to keep things pretty tightly under control budget-wise, but there are still many issues in it that I'm not comfortable with, and I will actually be voting against the annual plan. Specifically, the areas I don't believe that we do actually need 3% rate rises, and I'm not at all comfortable with the major expenditure on TERAX. So there's a few other issues, so I can't say that I support where we've got to, although there have been moves in the right direction.
Are you in good company with the other councillors? Is there many others going to be against it?
I doubt that very much indeed.
So you're a lone horse?
It seems to be that way, yes.
Yeah. Now, does it really actually matter that there's only one person who is against these issues or against the plan?
Well, technically, unless there's 7 of you, nothing happens around this place, as I've discovered very quickly. So as far as it's basically me casting a protest vote, if you like, saying I don't agree, and I'm stating publicly that I do not agree.
Cool, good stuff. Now, that could open up a huge debate about the various different issues, but we don't really have time for that, unfortunately. I think the big debate and the big issue that's in the paper at the moment is fluoridation.
Yep.
And the Lakes DHB and potentially the council putting fluoride in our water. What's your view on it and why?
Well, it's got to go out to public consultation. I believe this is probably going to be about the 8th or 9th time this issue's been raised with council, but because it is such an important issue and it does affect everyone, then it does have to go out to consultation. My own personal view on the matter is I am very sceptical about whether fluoride actually achieves anything at all, and certainly from the point of view of kids and their fizzy drinks, it's going to achieve absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned.
So do you think the real issue is not putting fluoride in the water, but the issue of educating children and parents about eating sugary foods and fatty foods?
Well, if you pick up the average can of drink that most of these kids seem to be stuffing in their mouths all day, every day, you'll find it actually contains like 6 and 8 teaspoonfuls of sugar. You can drop a tooth into a glass of Coca-Cola or something similar to that, and you'll actually find within 24 hours it's totally dissolved. So how's fluoride going to stop that? I don't believe it. It'll even touch the surface.
So what's the process in council? You obviously will be discussing the issue. Once it's been discussed, what happens then?
Well, what actually happens is it goes out to public consultation. We then sit and listen to all the probably hundreds of submissions that will come in, and then council will then make a decision based on that, and basically it'll come down to a vote between the councillors, and as I say, 7 councillors are needed to achieve anything around here.
Now Charles Sturt he's been very vocal on the fluoride topic as well. Do you support his views?
As I said, I'm very sceptical sceptical as to whether fluoride achieves anything at all. So I would be more in favour of his views, should we say.
Cool. Well, let's move to your portfolios, one which is the economic portfolio. Now, we mentioned on camera, off camera, that there hasn't been a lot of movement there yet. So just explain what your role is with that portfolio and why there hasn't been any movement.
Well, first of all, I'm supposed to be support in that portfolio to the portfolio leader. Well, first of all, we had Mike McVicker, who, as you're aware, has resigned from head of the portfolio. Mike and I went out and had several meetings with local business people, and we're starting to make some headway. Since then, absolutely nothing has happened whatsoever, and quite honestly, for 8 months, I'm disgusted at the lack of activity.
Now, when you talk about having meetings with the business people in town, what sort of things are you talking about?
Well, Mike and I will set out to actually listen to people for a change instead of telling them what to do, and we were trying to get a feel for what people thought should happen to help develop the economy around this place. There are a lot of very good people out there with some amazing ideas. Unfortunately, there's not much listening going on around the place.
Now, you said you're quite disgusted. There's a pretty strong word, really, to use what your opinion is or your point of view is. Why is that? What's going on that's got you so upset?
Well, apart from the fact that I wasn't even consulted over the replacement portfolio head, I haven't even had so much as a phone call from him since.
So lack of communication?
Total.
So what can you do about it? Because obviously the public don't know about this until you actually speak up and and get people discussing these sorts of issues. What's going to happen? What can you do?
Well, as I've discovered, very little happens around this place. You can talk. Well, there's a lot of talking goes on. There's very little listening. Unless you've got 7 votes, you can't achieve anything.
Yeah. Do you think you're making friends here, Rob?
I doubt whether I'm making very good friends. No. In fact, there's one councillor who hasn't even spoken to me in 8 months, so that's how friendly they are.
Yeah. Do you think it's because you like to stir the pot and you want things done and you're a bit of an action man?
I was taught to question things. I only question things because I want to understand, and I tend to assess things pretty quickly. I'm not a yes man. I never will be.
All very interesting stuff, Rob, so we'll just leave it there and we'll come back because in the next segment, we're going to carry on with this discussion about the various issues our city is facing. Well, thanks again for your time, Rob. We are obviously discussing the issues that are happening in our city, and being the man on the inside in council, you've got a different insight. And one of the things I'd like to discuss with you is just recently we had the council reshuffle and 66 positions were let go. Obviously that's got to be tough on the city and for these individuals, but was it the right decision by the council?
I think it most definitely was the right decision by the council. If I've achieved anything at all since being elected, it was stating loud and clearly right from day one that we needed a cost-effective and efficient council. And I have to say that if staff amongst themselves can decide that 66 staff members do not need to be there, then it tells you the magnitude of the problem that we actually were suffering in Rotorua. Whether we've gone far enough, I don't know. But at least it's a major step in the right direction, and finally we will start to see things heading towards a cost-effective and efficient council.
What other sort of things can the council do to A, save that money, and B, potentially transfer or transpose that money to other areas that would benefit the city?
There's a lot of things that are taking place and will happen once the reshuffle finally settles down. There's things like the rolling together of all the consenting processes within the auspices of basically one area, rather than having separate little people doing the building consents, others doing the resource consents, others doing something else again, and basically paper chasing itself round and round in circles around the building. So there's a lot of consolidation going on within the council that I think will actually achieve some quite major and dramatic economies of improving processes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, because amalgamation is probably the big word you want to use here, with what Steve Chadwick's talking about with the Super Council, and she's deadly opposing that. What's your view? Because she's, like I said, she's not for it at all.
Okay. I believe that there are aspects of what the council does that amalgamation can certainly help with, things like infrastructure. There are great many economies of scale that consolidating and amalgamating can help with. There are other aspects that definitely should never be amalgamated, and that's the local input. Otherwise, you just basically get swallowed up like's happened in Auckland.
So who makes that decision? Who says, right, we're going to move into a super council?
I have a horrible feeling that we're not going to make any decision on that. It will be foisted on us, and I think that's going to come from central government.
Well, again, that could open up to another huge subject, and we don't have time to go into it any further, but final thing that we're going to talk about today is the Easter trading laws. We've been around the city today asking various people, business people, young people, mums and dads in the street about trading laws, and I would say about 9 out of 10 said they believe that our shop should be open during Easter. What's your view on that?
I agree wholeheartedly. I think it should be a matter of freedom of choice of the people running the businesses. It is absolutely crazy in a tourist city to be shut on a major tourist weekend. It's crazy. If Taupo can open, if Queenstown can open, then Rotorua should be able to open. Yeah. That doesn't say they have to open, it means they should be able to if they want to.
Do you think it'd be fair then if these businesses that do open put on a 15% tariff or a 20% tariff because it is Easter?
Well, you've got to bear in mind that because of the way the holiday pay system works and days in lieu and so on, they've got to try and cover costs. There's a lot who will say, no, I'll make up for it in all the extra business I get, but there'll be some who have to pass it on. Cool. And okay, that's a matter of individual choice.
Cool, now we're almost out of time, Rob, but before we do go, you've been in council, you said 8 months now.
Yep.
How are you enjoying it? Is it what you expected?
It's probably the most frustrating 8 months of my life. We have probably achieved less in 8 months than I would have expected to achieve in business in 8 weeks.
Do you think people that voted our council in would be happy with a comment like that?
I'd be disappointed if they were happy. There's a lot more that could and should be going on. We've just got to wake this place up and get on and do the job properly.
Cool. Now we've talked about the Rotorua vision or 2030 vision for Rotorua many times on City News, and it's a great idea. Everybody's been talking about it, enthusiasm in the city. But just hearing from what you've said just now, it's sort of is it counterproductive to that vision? Does it meet the guidelines of that vision?
Well, as I say, from the cost-effective and efficient council perspective, we've made big steps in the right direction. That I'm very pleased with. In terms of the other areas, okay, I mean, Councillor Karen Hunt's doing an amazing job with the central city, getting things up and firing around the place. And there are some councillors who are working very, very hard around the place. But is it happening? It's not happening at a pace that business would accept.
Can you really relate the two though, business and council? Can you rate them on the same scale?
Hang on, this is a $100 million business. It is also a council, but it is running a massive business. It needs to actually start working like one.
That was District Councillor Rob Kent talking to Alan Solomon. If you have any news that you'd like to share with us, give the station a call on 07 3488 984 or email news@tv.rotorua.co.nz. Thanks for joining us tonight. From all the team at City News, Ko Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand.